Moving to Kennebunk could be an absolute disaster for you, so let's talk a little bit about the town so you can figure out if this is the right place for your next move or investment. Let's get into it. By the way, my name's Margaret. I'm a local real estate agent. My dad, Michael, and I make videos to educate you about living in the southern Maine area. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Give us a call, shoot us a text, send an email, schedule a Zoom call. All that information is down in the description below, as well as some free downloadable resources for you to use as well. All right, so similar to its neighboring town, Wells, Kennebunk is a town of about 11,000 people as of a couple of years ago. So it's not a very big town considering that it's not that far south of Portland or even smaller cities like Biddeford or Saco. It definitely has a small town feel to it. So the first thing I really wanted to get into was the downtown area. When people think of downtown Kennebunk, they typically think of this little area on Route 1. There's some older brick buildings, commercial buildings in that area. There's an ice rink. There's, some small coffee shops. There's a gym. Just a lot of small local businesses, more of a city type look to it. And then Route 1 kind of continues the downtown area a little bit further north of there, where there's some more commercial buildings, some more chain restaurants, things of that nature. It does have a more traditional downtown than some of its neighboring towns, such as Wells or Arundel. Kennebunkport does have its own separate downtown. They are two separate towns, though I think people get them confused. People from out of state or not from the area get them confused a little bit, as they do have pretty similar names. And that's another thing I wanted to touch on, was just the fact that Kennebunkport and Kennebunk do have separate downtowns. And when you think of downtown Kennebunkport, technically part of that area is still in Kennebunk. And a lot of people don't know that, but pretty much where the bridge is in downtown Kennebunkport is where Kennebunkport actually starts. The other part of that is actually technically part of Kennebunk, so you could kind of consider that a smaller or like a mini version of a downtown Kennebunk, but they are two very distinct, different areas and on different parts of town as well. I also wanted to touch on the tourism in southern Maine. When I talk about the coastal towns, I like to bring this up a lot because really from May through honestly mid-September, there's a really big tourism season in southern Maine, and it changes the dynamic of the towns a lot. You're going from a town with, 10, 11,000 people in it, or, give or take a few thousand from there, roughly, depending on where you are. And you're increasing your numbers by, tens of thousands of people that are visiting the state each year. And so with that comes, traffic. The restaurants are going to be busier. They might actually have waits this time of year. And certain shops do not stay open year round. A lot of people relocating to the area find this to be a little bit shocking. Though it's not totally surprising considering we have a lot less people here in the winter, but quite a few restaurants and shops do shut down. Now, a lot more stay open year round than they did when I was younger. A lot of restaurants that now are, open year round with the exception of maybe like a small break in, January, February, March, that area. Or that time of year. A lot of restaurants are staying open year round, which is definitely a plus side. So if you're moving to the area, you don't really have to worry about that as much as you used to. And kind of going off of the tourism, the beaches in Kennebunk. Kennebunk has an awesome beach. It's one of my favorites locally, personally. It has really great surfing. It has really nice sandy beaches. Maine is known for really having more of a rocky coastline. Fortunately, in York County, we are blessed to have some really nice sandy beaches, and Kennebunk definitely, in my opinion, has one of the better ones. They have a great sidewalk that runs along the strip of their beach, and you see people year-round walking it with their dogs. It really is, it just kind of creates this cute atmosphere, and not all of the coastal towns have that, so that's definitely a plus to Kennebunk. So more about the town itself. Kennebunk is a very well-kept town. And by that I mean they hang flowers on the light. They have light posts, not just like, the big commercial ones. They have pretty light posts that they have out in the town. They hang flowers on them. You might see flags at different times of the year. The maintenance, the grounds are kept up very well. Obviously people's personal property is a little bit different, but the town property, it's kept up very well. It's a very well-maintained town. The zoning in Kennebunk has really set it up in a way, granted Some people are grandfathered in for, you know, the particular locations that they're at, but generally speaking, a lot of the commercial buildings are located together. Residential neighborhoods are residential neighborhoods. They keep up the town really well, and it's a really beautiful place to live. Aside from it just being on the coast, it is really beautiful. The next thing I wanted to touch on was the safety of Kennebunk. So Kennebunk is considered one of the safest towns in the entire state of Maine. It was ranked the safest town a couple of years ago. I think it was in like 2020, 2021. It was considered the safest town in the entire state of Maine. And considering Maine and Vermont go back and forth for the safest state in the US, that would make Kennebunk one of the safest towns in the entire country. In addition to it being one of the safest towns in the entire country, Kennebunk also has a really great school system. They're ranked one of the highest, if not the highest, in the entire state of Maine. So they have a great public school system, and so that's obviously a plus too if you're moving to the town as well. I've touched on this in a bunch of different videos, and I like to keep bringing it up. Now, generally speaking, with some exceptions, if you live in Kennebunk, you go to Kennebunk High School. If you live in Wells, you go to Wells High School. Now, there are towns like Sanford where multiple different towns go to the Sanford High School because their towns are not maybe large enough to have their own high school or their own public school system is what I mean by that. But it's not like in some neighboring states where the populations are high enough that there's multiple different high schools in the town. That is the case up near like Portland and bigger cities in the state, but down here in the York County area, generally speaking, you go to school in the town, to the public school system in the town that you live in, unless you go to a private school. There are a few of those around, so that obviously changes things a little bit. And lastly, let's talk a little bit about the real estate. Now, Kennebunk is a pretty expensive place to live. Not only do they have relatively high property taxes, to buy a home in Kennebunk is also pretty expensive. It is not a cheap place to live. New England in general is considered a expensive place to live. With that said, Maine is considered the most affordable New England state to live in, and it's not super shocking being that Kennebunk is a fairly well-known area. It's right on the coast. It is a coastal town. It's very well kept. So it's not really all that shocking that's an expensive place to live. There are obviously more expensive places in the state to live, but if you're looking for a really affordable place to move, this might not be the right place for you, but it's definitely a good option if you have the money and you're looking for a really great school system, really safe. This would definitely be a great option for you. And then lastly, how far are we to amenities? So Kennebunk is about 30 minutes from the airport in Portsmouth and about 30 minutes up to the Portland Jetport. Now, these are smaller airports. If you wanted to go into Boston's Logan Airport, that would be about an hour and a half, depending on where you live in town. And if you live close to the highway, Kennebunk does have grocery stores. It has pharmacies, convenience stores. It has, you know, a lot of different small shops. It has chain restaurants. It really does have a lot in town. Not all towns in Maine are truly blessed to have all of these different amenities. It may sound kind of shocking, but not every town has a grocery store, not every town has a pharmacy, not every town has a gas station. So considering Kennebunk checks all of those boxes, much like a lot of other coastal towns, it is a pretty convenient place to live. All right, so I hope this helped you figure out if Kennebunk is the right place for your next move or investment. Again, my name's Margaret. If you have any questions, feel free to give us a call, shoot us a text, send an email, schedule a Zoom call. All of that information is down below, as well as those free downloadable resources, and we'll see you next time.